I will like to ask you one thing. If you like what you see here, please take a second and share this video. Share on your wall, share with friends. I think many people can benefit from what we are going to see and learn today. And every time you feel like it, give it a thumbs up or even some hearts. It's super fun on the videos. I don't know if you've seen that before, but if you have the video open, you can actually click the hearts and they flow around. They're so cute, but for us, it makes a huge difference. So I do appreciate if you take a second to do that. Okay, let me tell you how this is going to work. We are going to show the work of some other artists and what they have created after Kathy Hacking gave a class here at Curious Mondo. And then we are going to show you a quick demo on what to do with your scraps. What do you do when you have all those leftovers out there? Then we are going to talk about some options for you that you may want to take home today. And Kathy will do another beautiful pendant here for you. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you.
Awesome. Kathy, you know, you had your last class, because you already gave several courses here at Curious Mondo. Your last class was how to create beautiful wire pendants, right?
Oh, yes.
And we had a lot of fun. You can see here in the back some of the hearts that we have created. Like, oh, she created, I didn't create anything. But they are gorgeous, gorgeous pieces. And you can check more of that. But we had some of your students that also went all the way, start creating hearts. So let's take a look at what some of them made, because it's going to be super fun. Look at that one. I cannot read. Oh, Amelie Segert, I think. Sorry if I mentioned your last name wrong. But look how beautiful she created that piece with some type of stone. And then we have another one from Amelie, and then she did the wire heart, all wire with just one bead. See how beautiful that is? Here we have another one. I cannot read the name. Oh, Cheryl Ferens. And a beautiful blue heart. I have a friend that would love that heart, by the way. She's crazy about that color. And another one from Cherry. She used that stone actually has a hole. It's kind of a donut stone. Look how pretty it is. Do you like it?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
That's a wonderful part of the instructions is that you can then blend that into whatever materials that you have.
That you have at home, right? And create beautiful things with something that maybe is just staying there for the last year or so, correct?
Yes.
But before you give us your demo, tell me a little bit how you got started with wire.
Oh, I actually did a lot of beading, playing with that for many, many years. And I started noticing that other people had wire wrapping, and it really made a nice centerpiece for the beading. And I started looking around and trying to figure out how did that happen. I was actually really, really frustrated. What I could find those many years ago didn't give me the whole story, didn't show me everything, and I was ready to give it up. Working with the wrong tools, the wrong materials. My outcome just
wasn't
the
one you wanted.
Yeah, and so I was gonna swear it off and go back to just beading. And a friend of mine said, well, hang on, try
there is hope.
Different materials. Try spending a little bit of time picking in the first place, getting yourself set up to succeed. And
I love that,
yeah.
you know, get set up to succeed. Because I've been through the same process, not only with wire, but even with some other, even beading, right?
Yeah.
Because if you get the wrong quality of beads, the final result is not what you were expecting. So that's not fun. So setting up, write that down, setting up for success, because you need to understand that you have to have the right tools and materials in order to have a beautiful finished piece. And that many times
really makes a big difference.
Makes a big difference, right?
Same step-by-step instructions with cheaper materials that
Totally
you
different.
didn't really love in the first place. It's going to be hard to have the outcome
Yes,
as
it
beautiful
is.
as it could be.
Yes.
Versus if you start with something you enjoy and you love in the first place, a color that really catches your eye, a combination.
Well, color,
that
I
speaks
think
to
when
you.
you're creating, color for me is really one of the most important factors when you're creating, right?
Yeah.
But not being cheap when you're choosing materials is also very important. It's not the
Yeah.
place that you want to save a lot of money when you're doing that, correct?
Right.
Before I ask you another question, I want to remind all of you that if you have the video open, you can actually ask questions and interact, and we will be happy to read those to Kathy so she can answer directly to you. So take advantage of this opportunity, because you actually have a business with this. You not only give classes here at Curious Mondo, you give classes locally,
Yes.
and you sell your pieces, right?
Oh, yes. I actually, when we came to doing this last class, I looked through my inventory and realized I didn't have any examples of the things I was about to teach. And so not only did I have to generate my kits to get ready to teach the class, I had to also generate the display, the example pieces for the recording.
And your finished pieces, usually where do you sell them?
Here locally.
Locally?
I also travel a little bit, so whenever there's a conference I would like to attend, I say, hey, is there an option to have a vending booth? And
then you do that.
take it with me. The wire wrapping, my toolbox is really compact, but also my inventory is fairly compact. So it's been really easy to travel and just have a table and set it out. And
How long in years have you been doing this?
well, my daughter is almost 17, so she was about 2 when I switched from beads over to playing with the wire. So we've got a little bit of an investment here.
And you have your workers at home. How many kids do you have in total?
I have 3.
3 only? Oh, I thought you had more.
No, there's just a large age gap.
Gap,
So
okay.
She's almost 17 and then just barely 8 and just barely 4. So high school, elementary school, and still home, and it's exciting.
And busy.
Yes.
When you mentioned Setup for Success, you mentioned in class also that you, and here today, that you almost gave up, right?
Oh, yes.
And then you found the right type of wire that you had to work. So tell me a little bit about that.
I do still occasionally use round wire. There are places for that. But in particular, I was using round craft wire with round nose pliers, and I actually had chain nose with teeth on them. And so what was happening is that as I created my piece, I dropped it over and 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 over. And the teeth on my pliers were actually scuffing it and scraping it so that the finish was gone. By the time I got to something done, it looked horrible. So no teeth. Your pliers that you're using need to be very smooth. You can even go the extra step of coating them in something to help them be really kind.
When you say coating them in something, give me an example. That's a good tip.
There are little products that are for coating the end of tools to help them be rubberized.
Very smooth and
Rubberized,
cool.
And there are also pliers that have nylon jaw and just are plastic instead of wire, or sorry, metal.
Okay, and tell me about this type of wire that you use.
I really prefer the square. We talk about a lot of gauges in the course. The way it works is the larger the number, it's actually the smaller wire. So something like a 30 gauge is really fine like thread, versus something that's 20 or 18 is ideal for doing our bracelet projects.
And what are the ones that we have here? So we have a 20 gauge flat wire?
This one's square.
Square?
There's some 18 gauge round, because there are a couple projects that we do use that.
Okay.
There is a 26 gauge round and a 20 gauge half round. That's the other change that really assisted making things look professional and beautiful, was utilizing the half round wire and knowing how to make it fall nicely and end where you want it to end.
Yes. Let's show them some of the bracelets, because you actually put this all together when you were giving a bracelet class.
Oh, yes.
So we have this one here. Look how gorgeous it is. Do you have a name for this one?
Wow, I don't remember. It's a beaded cuff. So we did an infinity frame in the first place. We talked about how to just make a backing for it.
So this
that-
was the
Yeah.
one. Let's put it here.
So one of the projects was just this nice little frame, and it's beautiful all by itself, but then it became the base for a couple of our other
For this one.
projects.
Gorgeous.
So that you can customize it however you like.
Yes. And if you're into beading, this is a
There-
great
yep,
way.
The finer gauge wire, you can still do your weaving
Which gauge
beads.
is this one? Do you remember?
28.
28.
Going to the 30 with the beads on them, it's a little bit heavy for it, and it doesn't hold its shape
Hold
very
too
well.
much. Do you have any other bracelets that we have done? The one with the tree, right?
Oh yes.
Yes,
Get
let's
the
show
slightly
that.
larger one. So there was part of why we
Look at
needed
this
some
one.
of the round wire was to create that tree on there.
Mm-hmm.
So we made our frame and we got the cab so it was nice and situated and secure. And then we wove a tree on front
Yeah.
and have included the beads around the side as well.
That's great. Let's do one of your demos here. So
Okay.
what we were talking about is that we end up with a lot of small scraps. So you have a
Oh,
box
yes.
with those, right?
So this is actually my 18 gauge round. And what I figured out was that if there's about 2.5 inches of it, you can use the round nose pliers and just right in the middle of it, fold it in half. And I'm going to roll the pliers themselves around so that it helps it get this little lollipop shape. And then if you go take those tails, also on the barrel of the round, we just rolling one to the left and one to the right, bringing them to the outside. It makes this interesting little link. And I am, as I work, as I create, I'm always saving my little scraps. First of all, they're recyclable, so there's really no reason to just put them in the garbage. But if you start to accumulate all these little bits, suddenly, I've got a bunch of little links. Another option is a figure-8 kind of a jump ring. And then we can play with putting these together. We could come in all sorts of orientations, and just a little jump ring in between those could make a centerpiece.
So you can
We
use as a
line them up.
centerpiece?
Oh yes, they're pretty handy to line up and make a bracelet pattern. And then these, of course, are really ideal for hanging little charms and dangles. So your scraps are really worth hanging on to.
And making beautiful things out of them,
Yeah,
right?
and-
And I can make a clasp out of that as well, can't
Oh,
I?
yes.
Yeah, easily.
We talked about that I think we covered 4 different types of clasps in that class. There's the variation with the
look at how
swirls
nice.
out versus going the other way and bringing it together, because it was just, I would connect the jump rings in between those just a little different, and it would hold it.
And make another
Yeah.
beautiful piece. That would be awesome in a pendant, for example. You can add those,
Right.
right? That's fantastic. Let's see some more bracelets here that you have a
Okay.
ton over there. And
So
we want
right-
to show all the
Right at the
possibilities here for
beginning,
you.
we did begin with fairly simple how to do beaded links, how to make jump rings, and how
That was
to
exactly
do...
what you just showed us too, right?
Yeah, this is a toggle clasp, and so the instructions for how to make that
Put it lower a
that
little
clasp,
bit. Yes, look at that.
which is handy. Occasionally, when you're making something, you don't have a matching clasp, so there's that. And then we did some basic just weaving, taking the wire, playing with different
Wow, look at this one.
colors, but also just the plain square. And here again at the back, we've got some different closure types. There's a hook on this one. And so that's all.
Just playing. And here you do have some craft wire, correct?
Enameled copper can be pretty fun, decorative finish. And now I know how to use it so that it's still nice and shiny when I'm done. And we talked about the square wire. One of the fun things with that is actually that you can twizzle it. There's a pin vise tool that lets you take the square and get that different refractive quality with it when it's been twisted.
Okay, let me see the one with the pink.
Oh, yes.
Yes, that's a gorgeous one.
So moving on in our course, we started doing, this was a beaded frame. And just, it actually
with the
went really
beads.
quickly, yeah. I was happy with the way that one came out. I have another one of those that
Oh, a variation of that.
and so changing the beads,
Changes
this one
totally the
has
outlook.
more crystals and pearls and char white. So of course the pricing on this would be quite a bit different.
Give
than
us an
this one.
idea how much you would sell a bracelet like that locally, because depending on people where they live, the prices
Yeah.
also vary, right?
So this one over here, copper frame, we have glass beads, and right now it's marked at $35, and that's a pretty standard bracelet price. This one though, where I have quite a bit more going on, each of these char white beads themselves are $8. So you'd go through and calculate how much did you spend on your pearls, how much were the beads.
To make the final price,
Right.
but it would
So
be
I have,
close to double.
I have my little chart where I've figured out a base price for a bracelet with copper for me is about 20, and then I add
More, okay.
the materials
The
that
materials.
went into it.
But yeah, and how long does it take you to make for you without explaining?
Under an hour.
In an hour.
Under an hour.
Under an hour.
Especially if I've set myself up, I've got all my stuff right there. I sit down and I make it, and it's done.
And it's done. So you see that as a possibility for you to generate some extra income, because you may be thinking about wire wrapping just as a hobby, but always think a little bit outside, because what happens to all of us artists is that we end up with a lot of pieces, right? And then there's not enough time to wear all of them,
Oh,
right?
A long time ago, my husband told me, make things you like, make things you would wear. And so if it sells, great, and if not, and it's part of my
Then you wear.
personal treasure trove, yes.
Yes.
But that was actually how I got started selling, is that people saw what I was wearing and, where can I get that? And I'm like, oh, thank you, it's mine, it's one of mine. And then, well, can I have one? And that was actually really difficult for me to duplicate. I'm really good at the brand new original, something else. And it's taken me a minute to slow down and, okay, how did I do that? And I've really put a lot of time into the instructions that I've written up. And
Yes, and you see though that if you can start wire wrapping for yourself, always create things that you would wear yourself. That's a great advice. But think about, okay, but I can generate some extra income, maybe to buy more beads, maybe to buy more material, or to supplement something at home as well. You start an online store like you have on Etsy, and there you go, you are in business, right? Or you go to local shops and you start teaching and selling the kits for that. You do that in actually it's a rock shop that we have locally. It's not a bead store.
They have lots of beads, but their primary focus is the rock hounding.
Yeah, so see, she gets the fact that people go rock hounding and they find those beautiful stones. I know because I do that myself. And then we think, okay, what can I do with those? After you have covered all your garden with that, you've got to find something else. And that's when wire wrapping comes in place. Same if you do a lot of beading. Same if you do resin and you want a frame around. So there are many, many possibilities. So Kathy today, she put together a kit for you, thinking a lot about bracelets, but nothing keeps you from turning them into pendants or something else, where she put the best quality of wire, right? We have some washers and kind of steampunk pieces.
One of the projects from the bracelet kit.
We did with gears.
The bonus.
Was that.
Was
So you have washers here that you can use in any shape and form. Then we have all types of very cool beads
an assortment
and crystals,
of crystals and
right?
seed beads, metal spacers, the little daisy cap things.
Yes, those cabochons are gorgeous, right? And they come with several, and you have two options here. You have the option of cold or warm.
Yeah.
So for example, this one.
We sorted it. I know I like to have a variety of things, but looking at my materials, I needed to, how are we gonna keep track of this?
Yes.
And so there's a warm option, which is your brown, white, pink, orange, red, and the cool option, which is the black.
Black, and they do vary a
and
little
blue and
bit because
green.
they're
yes.
stones of high quality. So they vary. Like this one, for example, is also warm, but it's different than the other one. So you will get an assortment that will, it's really being chosen by Kathy what goes together. And if you've seen her before, you know she has a great eye for color and what goes together. Because, if you're like me, you may be putting pieces that they don't go together sometimes. But we know you're fantastic at that. And then you have an assortment of beads and crystals here, right?
And we've also done a generous portion. I counted out in the first place when I made up the kits from the class. I looked at all the things we had completed and what materials actually went into that. And then the kits were more than enough for all the bracelets that we covered. And then I'm finding as I'm measuring it out, I'm not doing it one by one, I'm doing it by weight. And so I err on the side of a little bit more.
So with one kit, the person will be able to create several pieces.
And that was part of why I wanted to talk to you about using your scraps, because if you just got this kit and did the course, you'd have leftovers.
Yes, but if you did, you're not lost in the water either. We have a special promo today. You can choose either the cold or the warm, and you get all the supplies with wire as well. As a bonus, you're going to get a set of pliers. So it's the bent plier and the cut plier, which you need because you need to have the right cuts. And once you get your kit, you will have the option, if you haven't already signed up for the Kathy's bracelet class, well, you're going to have the chance to do that only today for 30% off as well. So think about this. This kit goes for $95, high quality material on every single piece that you have, from wire to the stones and to the beads that you have. You get the set of pliers, and you have the option to get the course, the bracelets course, at just 30% off. You know very well that that's a super huge deal. That course, was that a 2-day or a 3-day course?
It was
Do you remember?
3 days.
3 days. So we have 9 hours of instructions plus the booklet, and Kathy makes the most amazing booklets that you can download, totally full of pictures, so you want to print that and have by your side all the time. I know I have the one about the tree life that you did on your first course. It's really great, but it's just today, and you might not believe this, but it is true. Kathy is a very busy person, so she made a very limited amount of kits, and you can look at the site how many we have. Once it's gone, it's gone. So if you think too much, well, you're lost, because if they're gone, she has trips ahead. We are not going to have them anymore. So it's really a one-chance thing that you have. You should take advantage of that. Give yourself that Christmas present. Why just think about the other people? You already shop for them. Now it's your turn. So give yourself the pleasure of being able to create beautiful things with high-end materials that you do not find in craft store. Let's be frank, you don't find this type of wire. You don't find this type of stones in craft stores.
And not in these quantities.
And not in this quantity, and you would be paying a lot more for that. So think, it's very small amount of investment, and you get the bonus pliers, and you have the option to get the class as well for 30% off today. Isn't that fantastic?
It is.
Okay.
I didn't know you guys were doing all of that.
See? We work hard to make people create beautiful things. We want to see now how to create the beautiful pendant that you said.
Let's put it right here. Okay.
Okay.
So this is actually another use of the scraps. This little amethyst has a hole through it, and we really don't need much to take something like this that is technically a bead. It's an unusual shaped bead, but what have I got? A little scrap over here is about 5 inches long, and that's plenty. And I took a second to make sure that my beads would pass through that. This wire would match with the boreholes. And so I've bent it on either side of where it passed through. And now I'm bringing it together at the top. I love the dead soft copper because mostly I do use my fingers to do the work. But the round nose pliers could work right here if you're doing a single bail. If you're going to do a double bail, you will want to use something that is a dowel, a cylinder actually. A double bail on your tapered pliers will give you one bigger and one smaller. So my one has just made this little loop that will accommodate a cord or a chain. And now I'm going to take this other tail around just right at the base of that. And that's already done. That has trapped our little bail loop right there. And now I have these two little tails. And I like the addition of the little sparkles. I do tend to still do the beading, create the pendant, but also I have in mind how I want to display it. And so I'm just using my pliers right here quick to get the coil started, and then it continues to coil around with the beads in place. And that you do need to be a little bit gentle. As you do that, the little beads, if you apply, squeeze it with the pliers right on it, it would pop the bead off. But, if the bead pops off, you've still got a nice little wire coil, so it's not the end of the world. But you can see, there was a 5-inch scrap of wire, and now I have a little pendant.
It's a beautiful pendant, right?
And so even long tails are...
So whatever you have left over, don't throw it away.
Oh, no.
Right? Because you don't want to throw away good quality metals. And you saw here in a very short amount of time not only the links that she made that can turn into chains, can turn into clasps, can turn into accent pieces of your piece.
Oh, yes.
She also showed with just a scrap of wire how to make a beautiful pendant. It's really a gorgeous one.
The rock itself came on a strand, and they're about $1 each. And the little crystals, you get a whole bag of crystals, you'll probably have leftover scrap crystals also from the kit. And this could easily be sold for $10 or $15 in the little local shops.
And depending on where you are, a lot more than that.
In the metaphysical stores, if you bother making the label about the metaphysical properties of amethyst.
Yes.
And maybe put it in a nice little box.
Which people pay a lot of attention to, then you even increase the perception of value that piece has. So that alone is a very cool tip, because if you're into energy and rocks and you know what they're meant for, how they heal, you can add that whenever you sell a piece, right? Do you do that too or not?
I label them for what their materials are.
Okay.
I know that I have both clientele. I have the rock shop people that are just interested in the specimens and don't want to talk about the energy of things. And then the other people who are interested in that can either ask me, okay, now that I have an amethyst with a prehnite, what's that good for? Or I actually have a reference on my website for the properties of stones.
That's fantastic. I love that. MondoMarketTV.com is where you have to go right now to get the kit. Again, it comes, so how many gauges we have here?
I think it was 6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yes.
And then you choose between the cold and the warm, and we'll know, but Kathy will choose the stones that will go for that. You have all the trimmings and crystals that you need to go together, plus washers, plus some steampunk kind of stuff here. I was told that you can create at least 10 bracelets out of that. But don't get tied just with bracelets, because you can create pendants. I would love to have a pendant with a piece like this, for example. It's a gorgeous piece, right? So you can create earrings, for example, because you have all sizes of little beads out there.
That if you're not going to use them on that bracelet for the project with the beaded frame, yes, those could easily be created as dangles for the bottom of a pendant or earrings. Or
all kinds of stuff. So your imagination is really the limit. But the very important part is that you need to start with very good quality materials. And that's what you have here, that soft copper in different gauges that you can create, the sets of beads, the set of stone, and the set of metals that you can incorporate. And today only, it's $95. And you also get a set of pliers for you to cut and bend your your wire. You need those. I use them all the time, and I know you do too. And if you haven't taken Kathy's class yet, you're going to have the option to do that only today as well for 30% off. So go into Mondo, M-O-N-D-O, mondomarkettv.com. Making your choice right now is a very wise decision because, like I said, Kathy really put a very short amount of kits together, and she'll be traveling not only for the new year, but she's a busy girl. You should see her calendar because I have seen, and it's like, where are we going to schedule a course here because it's super full, super busy. But she took the time. She took the time to choose the stones, to put everything together. She was very generous in the amount. So what you're getting here for $9.95 is a small investment for what you're going to get. And then you can just start creating more things to give to people you love, or even start your own online shop and start selling them, correct? Yes.
And they make wonderful gifts.
They do make wonderful
I love that
gifts.
too about my toolbox. Is, you know, if I find out at the last minute we have a birthday party or a wedding anniversary,
That's what I do too.
I need a present for somebody and I really don't have time to go shopping, much less order it and have it come in the mail, that I can sit down with my materials and, you know, pull up the person like, okay, what is it that I can create here that will be a match for what they require?
You know, I do exactly the same at this time of the year. There are some people, some friends that I have that are very dear to me, and I always think that I want my energy with them. I do believe in energy, and I do believe that if I'm creating something in a moment of happiness, that's going to get it to them as well. And I know exactly the colors that they like. I know if they like gold or copper or whatever, and I make it. And that's exactly what I've been doing every night.
The little packages of air that sometimes come in shipping containers. When my daughter was little, we were unpacking presents, and she said, well, what's this one? And I said, well, it has air in it. And she says, oh, it was packed with love.
See?
And I'm like, oh.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I hope people get when they get something that is handmade. That it came from a different energy. It came from a different mindset, right? It was not mass-produced somewhere. It has a lot of value. Sometimes they don't get it, but it doesn't matter. We are giving it to them and putting that around. Right?
Yes.
And don't forget that if you know crafters and artists out there, it's the best present is to give them something they can create with, right?
That's actually my favorite. It's
Me
more
too.
materials.
Me too. It's like, I don't need anything. I don't care about material stuff. And I like to make my own jewelry, my own bags. So if somebody gives me something to make something out of,
I know
I
they
really
really
love
know
that.
me, and they care about what I care about.
Yeah,
And
so think about that. If you have somebody special in your life that likes to create or is thinking about create, empower them. That's the best gift you can give, empower someone else. But if you're done with your shopping, then empower yourself. Get high quality material, get this kit you're going to fall in love with. And you know, when the holidays are over, that you really are thinking, well, now what do I do? Kind of a dead time in between holidays. Start creating, start crafting, and again, start creating beautiful pieces out there. Only today, when the day is over, the offer is over, so get your kit, warm or cold, and get started. mondomarkettv.com, and then you're set to go. Thank you so much for being here.
Gladly.
Thank you so much for being here, and I hope to see you again next week. Next week, we are actually coming live at 2 p.m. with Micah Madness. If you never heard of Micah, you need to be here. Jody McCarraney-Russell will be here with us. Don't put that down on your calendar right now. Next Thursday, 2 p.m., right here on Facebook, and I'll see you next time.